Welcome to the 2021 World Junior Championship preview, where we're going to take a look at the format of the tournament as well as the rosters and make some predictions. And that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we're only one day away from the World Junior Championships kicking off. Of course, it starts tomorrow, which is Christmas Day, December the 25th, in Edmonton, Alberta, in the Edmonton bubble. Of course, originally the tournament was supposed to be held in Europe, wasn't supposed to be in Canada or in Edmonton, but because of COVID and the ability of Edmonton to show a strong bubble situation like they demonstrated in the NHL return to play in the summertime, they decided to go with this format to be able to hold the tournament. Otherwise, there's a good chance it wouldn't have likely happened. So there's 10 teams in this tournament. They're divided up into two groups, Pool A and Pool B, each with 5 teams. And of course, we'll take a look at some of the key rosters and as well as make some predictions. So let's first up take a look at how the format goes here with the Pool A and Pool B. So in Pool A, we have Team Canada, who was the #1 ranked team from last year. Obviously, Canada always has a strong tournament, but last year they were the World Junior Championship tournament winners. We also have Team Finland, Germany, Switzerland, and Slovakia to round out Pool A. Obviously, Team Finland is a team you can never count out. They're always strong, and even if they don't look as strong on paper, sometimes they surprise you. You can never take them lightly. And of course, the Germans have come a long way in their development of a lot of top young NHL prospects in recent years as well. And same with the Swiss. They sometimes surprise you too. You can't take them lightly, so I'm not really sure there's really any games that you can count on winning in this pool. But theoretically, with what we have here, Canada should be able to win the pool, but no guarantees. It depends on how strong they play during their round-robin games. Now, looking at Pool B, we have the second and third ranked teams from last year. We have Team Russia and Team USA. We also have Team Sweden, as well as Team Czech Republic and Team Austria, who's moved up into the main group here for the first time. So obviously that's a big step for them. They're going to want to make some noise if they're able to. It's going to have a big challenge ahead of them now, but Austria is certainly a team. Again, I'm not sure there's really any real weak opponents in here. Austria is the newest team to the group, so I guess if there was a team, might be able to have a gimme type of game. It might be against them. No disrespect to Austria, but they're certainly bringing their program a long way here in recent years as well. Now, when you look at NHL teams and what the prospects that you're going to see in this tournament, the Kings by far have the most. They have 9 NHL drafted prospects showing up in this tournament. I mean, the Kings are all over the place. We know they have one of the deepest, most talented prospect pools across the NHL, and they're going to be well on display here today with many players across various nations. So the Kings are all over the place. Now, the Red Wings are also another strong team with a lot of prospects. They have 7 prospects at this tournament, including 5 on Team Sweden. They seem to really have a lot of success with their Swedish players, and this won't be any different here. They have several guys on that Swedish roster. Of course, you get some teams, though, like the St. Louis Blues, partially a victim of being a cup contender the last few years. They don't have any prospects at this tournament. And a team like the Dallas Stars, who was a Stanley Cup finalist last year, they only have 1, and a guy like Thomas Harley, defenseman for Team Canada. So now let's take a look at some of the rosters for some of the top teams that are expected to contend for gold medal here. We're not going to look at every roster. It would take too long, but I'll certainly put a link down below in the description where you can get the information if you want to go through this a little bit more thoroughly. But we're going to start here with Team Canada. Now, one big blow that we learned today was Captain Kirby Dach will not be able to compete in the tournament after sustaining a wrist injury in yesterday's exhibition game leading into the tournament. As their only one that they played, and unfortunately he just had a bit of a freak accident and he's out. That's a big blow for Canada. He was going to be their top center, but I think it's a big opportunity for a guy like Quinton Byfield, Kings prospect, #2 overall from the 2020 draft, to really step up and be that #1 center and show how dominant he can be. Of course, last year he was an underager and didn't have a great tournament, but he was there, gained a lot of valuable experience, which is quite common for players in that situation. Now it's time for him to show that he can be that dominant player as he prepares for his NHL career. But Byfield could turn out to be more of a headliner than we might have expected him to be due to Dach's injury, but we also have guys like Jack Quinn and Dylan Cousins of the Buffalo Sabres. You've also got Alex Newhook, Peyton Krebs, Dawson Mercer. Some of these guys were on the team last year. On the blue line, you've got some strong guys like Drysdale and Bowen Byram, and you got Justin Bear and Spence. And there's everybody on this team, and it's a deep team. Canada should be able to contend for gold. No guarantees that they win it, but they should definitely be within the Final Four and be in contention for that gold medal. If there's a question mark for me around Team Canada, it's certainly between the pipes. Levi appears to be the starting goaltender heading into the main tournament play, and he's been good. I think he's grabbed the opportunity here, but still, in years past, they quite often had a more experienced goaltender that was more, kind of more solidified the position. So that's something that's lacking here compared to some teams, especially like the Russians and the Americans that have more of that stud goaltender. Not to say he couldn't be that, but as of right now, it's a bit of an unknown and a variable that could go against Canada. So we'll see how that plays out, either for or against them. Now, looking at one of their top competitors in Pool A, the Finland team, the Finns are also pretty strong. Like I mentioned, you can never count them out. They have captain Anton Lundell, was a high draft pick in the 2020 draft. Sometimes underrated offensively, doesn't always get enough credit for how strong he is in that regard, but certainly a really solid two-way player as well, which is quite common amongst Finnish players, the way they train their guys. They are, taught to play a 200-foot game, so we quite often get those more defensively responsible players that have that high offensive upside here. So Lundell will be leading the team, including guys like Robbie Herventi, a Senators draft pick, who's having a solid year so far. You got Ronnie Hirvonen as well, the Leafs. You got Heinola, Kokkonen, Santeri on the back end. They get some pretty strong overall players here between the forwards, the defense, and the goaltending. It's all pretty good. Like I said, you can't count them out. Finland's been a bit of a goalie factory here in the past as well, so you can never count those guys out to be keeping them in the games. Now, jumping over next to Team Russia, who, again, very well could be another team that steps up and wins this tournament, will be captained by Canucks prospect Vasily Podkolzin. Of course, you'll get to see him more so on display. Last year, of course, you get to play a smaller role. But we're also going to see a new head coach in Russia, Igor Larionov, who's certainly bringing some new way of doing things, some different philosophies, and will certainly be interesting to see how he does things differently with this team, and how he, especially when it comes to player usage and the lineup and everything like that. I thought the Russians kind of misused their lineup last year and just really didn't put a lot of their top talent in more of a position to succeed, in my opinion. But I guess we will see how the Russians do. Obviously, besides guys like Podkolzin, they have Rodion Amirov, of course, who has been a top pick for the Leafs this year. He's an interesting player to watch. Abramov. You got Askarov between the pipes, who's going to be probably the top goalie in the tournament. And then certainly potentially at least American Spencer Knight might give him a run for that title as well. But Askarov will certainly be one of the top players to watch, and they'll probably go as far as he takes them, in my opinion. Now, looking at their main competition as well, when it comes to Group B play, one of Canada's top competitors for gold will be Team USA as well. This is another really stacked team, as I said, led by Spencer Knight between the pipes. Certainly a stud goaltender if there was one in this tournament. On the top line here, in the forward group for this group, you've got guys like Alex Turcotte, Cole Caulfield's been tearing it up. You got Trevor Zegras, you got Arthur Kaliev. You have Matthew Boldy. I mean, and the list goes on. And, this is a really deep, offensively talented team as well. On the back end, they got some solid blue liners: Jake Sanderson, Cam York, Tyler Klevin. They got Johnson back there. It's again a really deep American team, and this might be one of the better American squads that they've assembled here, at least in recent years, in my opinion. So I think the Americans will give the Canadians and the Russians and the Finns and the Swedes every run for their money here. And in the pre-tournament action, they looked really solid too. But of course, once things actually count, sometimes we get a different story. And of course, injuries can happen, like we saw with Kirby Dach with Canada. If another team sustains a major injury in the short term early on too, that could also play a big role, and we can't predict how things like that are going to happen. Now, of course, we also have Team Sweden as well. Sweden's another team like the Finns. You can never count them out. I mean, they're obviously going to be headlined by some of the top players that you saw from the last two drafts, including guys like Lucas Raymond and Alexander Holtz, both high picks in the 2020 draft. You got Noel Gunler as well, who was a pretty high pick by the Carolina Hurricanes. Obviously, there's plenty of other guys. You go up and down this roster, you cannot count them out. On the back end, you got Tobias Bjornfoot as well, Philip Broberg, Victor Soderstrom. So they have a pretty solid blue line core. They got some great forwards. Goaltending is always pretty solid. And again, like the Finns and the Russians and everybody else, Sweden's got a long history here of being really solid in the round-robin games. So we'll see what they can do. But I do think they'll be in tough when it gets into the later rounds as usual based on the roster. But we're going to see some great performances amongst some of these young top players. So overall, I think it's a really solid looking tournament. I think there's really like always about 5 teams that you could kind of put in there as a potential gold medal winner. You can never count teams like Sweden and Finland out. Of course, you get Canada, USA, and Russia. And some of the other teams, like you just can't count them out either. But they're the top 5 are there for a reason. They've been in the tournament a lot longer, have a lot more experienced players, way more first-round picks, a lot more high-end talent, and one of those 5 likely does win. If I'm going to make a prediction, as much as I want Canada to win, obviously because I'm Canadian, I have a feeling that based on the rosters, I think this could be the year that we see Team USA pull one out here. I think this team has a lot of deep talent from all the way from between the pipes, all the way up through the blue line into the forward group. Like I said, my main concern over Canada is between the pipes. And I'm just not sure that they're going to be able to hang with the U.S. and Russia if we get into a deeper playoff format, because of the goaltending. But I hope I'm wrong, again, but I think those other countries are going to stand an excellent chance to win as well. So, of course, let me know what you think. Make some predictions down below in the comments. Which players are you most excited to see? There's all kinds of great NHL prospects here. And, of course, many of these guys we could see transition over to the NHL once this tournament is over, especially the ones who are playing, or supposed to play at least, in junior leagues across Canada. We're still up in the air when those junior leagues are going to be able to get going here. Right now, everything's been pushed back to like February, and there is a reason to be concerned that there may not be a Canadian Hockey League season in the Western League. The Quebec League might not be able to pick back up, or even in the OHL as well. Quebec League probably stands the best chance out of the 3, but it's still not looking great. So a lot of these players could end up on taxi squads for their NHL teams as well, where they have expanded rosters. It might be a prime opportunity for them to hang around their NHL teams, and they don't have to play a lot of games but still gain valuable experience. Of course, they have so many games that they're allowed to play, which this year will be 7 before they burn a year of their contract. So we will see what happens in that regard. But we might see more of these guys in the NHL than we might have thought otherwise, just because of the lack of options to play. Some of them could also go to the American Hockey League as well. Depends on what their teams feel is best. So let me know all your thoughts on the tournament and predictions in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.